Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video I will be reviewing my custom LEGO Transformers movie Starscream. Here Starscream is in his F-22 Raptor alt mode. As you can see here, I've managed to accurately recreate the proportions of the real life jet in this LEGO form. So spinning Starscream around, you can see here at the front of the jet, I've managed to accurately recreate the nose cone as well as the cockpit. I've decided to use a bright orange cockpit. Even though this is not entirely accurate to movie, it helps the cockpit stand out in robot mode as well as plane mode. I'm now spinning Starscream round to the side. I've tried to keep the kibble to the minimum to allow for a cleaner alt mode. However, there are things such as the legs stored underneath the jet. And spinning Starscream around, you can see I've unfortunately not been able to recreate the thrusters at the back of the jet. I decided to not include the thrusters to help prioritize the look of the robot mode. And spinning Starscream around once again, you can see where I've managed to recreate the silhouette of the jet. However, this is not entirely accurate, as I have not been able to include the rear tail fins on this model, as I had nowhere to store them in robot mode. And placing Starscream upright, you will now be able to see the silhouette of the jet much easier. Unfortunately, some details are missing as there are corners chopped out of the edge of the wings. This is to help with robot mode accuracy. And spinning around Starscream, you can see the underkibble of the jet. I've tried to keep it to the minimum as only the legs are stored there. And spinning around Starscream once again, you can see here where the legs are stored in plane mode. And here you can see the undercarriage of the jet again. And unfortunately I've not been able to include landing gear on this model. And now it's time for some size comparisons. Now it's time to bring in the Studio Series Starscream, as this is the model that I've based my LEGO Transformer on. As you can see, I've managed to include details such as the orange cockpit and the engine intakes on the Studio Series jet. And spinning the models to the front, you can see that I've not managed to include landing gear here. However, this is to aid robot mode accuracy. And spinning the jets around, you can see I managed to recreate the silhouette of the jet, including the cockpit and the shape of the wings. And spinning the jets around once again, you can see that I've unfortunately not been able to recreate the thruster details that are seen on the Studio Series version. I've also not been able to fully recreate the tail fins as seen on the Studio Series version. As you can see, the rear of my plane model is slightly more boxy as compared to the Studio Series version. So that is my jet compared to the Studio Series version in plane mode. So getting rid of the Studio Series version for a minute, here are some more comparisons. Here Starscream is with Legacy Guard. And bringing in another jet former, here's Starscream with the Studio Series Thundercracker. And even though Thundercracker did not appear in the movies, I still really enjoy his Studio Series figure. So now it is time for the transformation. So starting off with the transformation, I'm going to have to detach the legs from the bottom of the plane mode. Once this is done, I can fold around the crotch flap. And coming to the top of the jet, we can now rotate around this flap that's covering his head. Once this is done, we can push through the head. This will create clearance for the nose cone to fold into the chest later on. And now, flipping the jet back over, we can take the arms and rotate them and clip them into these shoulder pieces. Once this is done, we can unclip the bottom of the wings and leave them to the side for now. And now it is time to flip round the nose cone on this double hinge joint, locking it in place. We can now flip back up the crotch plate, securing the nose cone for robot mode. We can now come to the side of the jet, where we can fold in the remainder of the wing, filling out his torso. And we can now recreate this step on the other side. Once this is done, we can unclip the shoulder pieces and bring down his arms. And coming to the back, we can now fold up the rear wings and clip them onto the back. We can now fold around the legs so that the light grey part is facing the front. Now we can rotate down the arms and fold out his hands. And for the last step, we can spin around and fold down his head. So here we have Starscream in robot mode. As you can see, I've managed to recreate his look from the movies, including his iconic Dorito-shaped design. And here you can see why I've decided to include an orange cockpit, as it helps the cockpit stand out from the chest. And spinning around Starscream to the side, you can see that there is not very much kibble on this design, and I've managed to recreate the chicken legs he has from the movie. And spinning around Starscream to the back, you can see that there is not very much kibble, and I've managed to recreate the small wings he has on his back in the movies. And spinning around Starscream once again, you can see I've managed to recreate the long arms he has that are iconic to his movie design. And now, it's time to bring Starscream in for a closer look. And here you can see I've managed to recreate the head design he has in the movie. I've done this using a jumper plate along with a small clip. This recreates his head design pretty well in my opinion. And here you can see Starscream's iconic Dorito-shaped chest, along with the cockpit of the plane mode in the centre. But now it's time for some comparisons. So moving Starscream back away, it's time to bring in the Studio Series version, as this is the design that my figure is based on. As you can see here, I've managed to get my proportions from my LEGO figure very spot on to the Studio Series design. And spinning the figures around to the side, you can see I managed to recreate the small wings that he has on his back. And spinning the ram to the back, you can see the only kibble that my design has is the rear plane wings stored on the back. And here you can see I managed to recreate the proportions of the chicken legs on my design. Anyone who owns the Studio Series figure will see that my design shares a lot of design similarities, like the double hinge for the nose cone, as well as the crotch flap covering the rest of the nose cone in the torso. And now bringing in another jet former, it's time to compare Starscream with the Studio Series Thundercracker. As you can see here, Thundercracker is a very unique design for a plane former, as the cockpit ends up on one of his arms instead of in the chest. And bringing in Legacy Guard, you can see Starscream is around Voyager class in scale. And bringing in the leader of the Autobots, here he is with Siege Optimus Prime. And here Starscream is, compared with a 4-inch Fortnite figure that I've used in one of my recent shorts. But that is enough for size comparisons, now it's time for the articulation. And to start off with, the head can only look up. It cannot rotate as the joint I've used does not allow for this, and the collar blocks the rotation. But the head can look up 90 degrees. And coming to the arms, they can go out to the sides to a considerable amount. They can also easily rotate the full 360 degrees. The arms also have a double elbow joint, as I've used ball joints here, meaning it also has a bicep rotation and elbow rotation. The hands can also swing back and forth. Unfortunately, there is nothing at the waist due to the way he transforms. And coming to the legs, Starscream can pull off the full splits to the front and to the sides. He also has well above 90 degrees of knee bend. And his ankles can have a small amount of pivot as well as a full rotation. But that is it for his articulation. So that was it for my custom LEGO Transformers Starscream review. I hope you've all enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to see more LEGO Transformers.